Hello and welcome to RimWorld and to episode 0 of my Chronicles of Rimmick Ice Sheet Challenge playthrough. My name is Barbinger. What I want to do with this episode is give a bit of an introduction by describing starting conditions, scenario settings, and mod settings, with a bit of explanation as to the thought behind each of these aspects. My earliest recordings of this series are from about 5 years ago, from the time this video was posted, and there were many attempts before that, throughout which I tweaked all these settings to make a fun but difficult challenge. And so much of this was recorded on version 1.2 and prior to owning any of the DLCs. We're just playing on core, and I intend to keep it that way so I'm not switching mid-series. Besides, I thought this might be a bit of a treat for those who, like myself, are still a fan of vanilla RimWorld without all the complexity. First off, this is a tribal start with almost nothing. The inspiration is that I wanted to do a much colder ice sheet than Pete Complete did in his ice sheet series, and I wanted to solve it without a cannibal. As such, Rimmick is a bit of an overpowered character, but I think it fits with her lore, and it is still a difficult challenge despite this. My basic philosophy is that opportunities are provided, but nothing is easy. Let's talk clothing. She has a bearskin tribal wear and duster, which might sound overpowered, but only gives up to -7 degrees Celsius cold coverage, which gives just the right amount of difficulty for the coldness of the tile. I playtested and tweaked it so that she ends up in at least minor hypothermia by the time the shelter is up. Scenario settings. 200% research. This is to counter research being cut in half for tribal runs. The idea that people with different technologies are inherently dumber is such colonizer nonsense that I can't even. Besides, researching is a slog, and I didn't want the playthrough to drag on. 6 ship chunks. This helps with proximity of steel to geysers, but still creates time pressure with deconstruction. No wanderer join, no farm animal join. Wander join takes away colonist choice, and provides free food, as do farm animals, which I didn't want. 10 smoke leaf. Creates a choice between mood control or selling for early gains like medicine or a weapon. Pod crash every 4 days. This is a blessing and a burden. I have a self-imposed condition that I must rescue any non-hostile podders that I reasonably can. They can also be a food source, albeit a problematic one. This coincides with why I wanted the coldest mountainous ice sheet I could find. Enemy raid every 5 days. This adds an amount of extra difficulty on top of the Storyteller schedule. Every 20 days, a raid will coincide with a pod crash, creating difficult choices or strains. Also, it's a problematic food source. Herd migration every 2 days. This only ends up applying to the warmest parts of the year. It's a food source that makes the player work for it and take risks, especially in the first year. Also coincides with raids and pod crashes, making extra challenge. As for the Storyteller, I've chosen to go with Cassandra for one main reason, and that is Randy. I originally tried to do this with Randy and kept finding that I would have very blessed runs with lots of great cargo drops that just didn't feel challenging enough. I wanted my successful run to be successful because I played well, not because Randy decided to bless me. Cassandra is plenty difficult and kind of underrated. I'm going with Blood and Dust because that's just my speed, and I'll choose reload anytime because I'm a YouTuber, and things can just go wrong with saves. Here we'll go with 100% global coverage so that we can find a good tile to land on. Overall rainfall is there for creating more jungle and less desert, and doesn't really affect ice sheets. Overall temp is turned all the way down for obvious reasons. Finally, we'll go with the Seed of Black because our hero is. Now let's talk add-ons. Configurable mental breaks. The 4 that I've disabled are Berserk, Murderous Rage, Sadistic Rage, and Run Wild. Berserk, Murderous Rage, and Sadistic Rage are unrealistic tropes that promote bad stereotypes about mental health. Those kinds of things are excessively rare and not akin to short-term stress situations like seen in the game. Run Wild is just ridiculous and silly, and we already have Give Up Exit for that kind of mechanic. Hunters use melee. It's only there so I can finish off downed animals. Simple sidearms. Any good soldier worth their salt would have a knife or something for close encounters. This has always felt like the way the game should be to me. Of course, I would prefer that it could do the same for pawns, but alas. I still love it though. For some complicated reasons, I don't have original footage of the starting site selection. This screenshot is from a new save file with the same seed, and doesn't show the NPC town nearby, but there is one as you'll see in later videos. For anyone who wants to play along or set the same starting conditions, you can get pretty close. The mountains will all be the same, but in the current version the geysers and ruins will be slightly different. You can see the coordinates in the bottom left. The requirements I had were no caves, mountainous, marble, and granite. Granite because it's the strongest, and marble for its beauty properties. On to pawn creation. Here we use Prepare Carefully to load our prefab character, Rimmick. And here's our character, Rickard B. Rimmick. They're an apocalypse survivor and beastmaster with acidic, iron-willed, and tough characteristics. A melee of 12, construction and mining of 5, animals of 8, crafting of 4, medical 6, and intellect 1, with no incapabilities and no injuries. The intellect of 1 doesn't really mesh with our character's lore, but I wanted to create some pressure to get a second colonist right away. Also worthy of mention is the social 2, making it a lengthy process to capture pirates and persuade them to join. We'll really have to have a handle on our food situation before trying. It should be mentioned that Apocalypse Survivor and Beastmaster are no longer available in the game. Here is a suggested alternative with Abandoned Orphan and Wildlife Ranger if you wanted to try an identical challenge. With all of this out of the way, we'll end the video on some introductory storyline. Sit back, relax, and I'll see you in the first episode.
They say your brain shuts down in cryo-sleep, all but the primitive side, the animal side. Guess that's why I was awake. Felt a shift before it happened. The field suppressor. Dropped in this ghost lane to Rimium Prime. Definitely mercs. Amateurs, though. Didn't account for the planet well. Pulled me right into their ship and tore it in two. Felt the pod hit Atmo. Harsh planets out on the rim. Don't even show up on the settler charts. Too harsh to colonize, they say. Just not desperate enough. Nothing but merc holes and slams. And bugs in the dark. Saw more pods on the way down. Those markings. Familiar. No gods, no masters, we all said, like the old writings. Enslaved by a slug-faced gangster calling himself a lord. We busted out together. Then they sold me out to his jackboots to get the heat off themselves. Chased me down every back lane dark enough for a go-juice bar or psychite den. We were going to settle off-world. Some small corner on a Dust Bowl rimworld, but enough to live. Build a new world, one without masters. That was the plan. I guess that's how they found me. If they're smart, they'll lick their wounds and run. If they were smart, they wouldn't have taken the job.